Hi, I'm Jim McConnery of Welch LLP. Businesses in Ottawa continue to adapt and evolve. Some businesses are flourishing. Other parts of the economy have suffered greatly. In both cases, local business leaders have demonstrated their resilience. For some, resilience means work from home. For others, connecting with clients virtually or doing things differently. In a constantly changing environment, how are business owners to make heads or tails of the situation? That is the purpose of the report we share today. It is the definitive survey of local business leaders that determines business confidence. It measures who is hiring, trends in real estate, and changes in how we work. Let us take you inside the results of the survey and share valuable insight to determine what an economic recovery will look like and what that will mean for you and your business.
Welcome to the virtual launch of the 2022 Ottawa Business Growth Survey. I'm Michael Curran from the Ottawa Business Journal. This is a big day for OBJ and our partners at the Ottawa Board of Trade. It is the launch of Ottawa's definitive survey of local business leaders. Let me give you a bit of background on this project. It was established in 2015, meaning we have several years of research. And if you add up all of that research, in fact, more than 4,500 responses from local business leaders have been collected. The findings provide its readers valuable insights on growth, on important issues and trends. And the report also supports the advocacy of the Ottawa Board of Trade, something that's never been more important in these uncertain times. In fact, this year's theme is Ottawa at a Crossroads, and we'll be talking about that in just a few minutes. Before we talk to David Coletto, which is our research partner, and he will unveil just in a few minutes here the full findings of the survey, I want to talk about a partner, the important partner in this project with us. It is a firm with deep roots in Ottawa. In fact, they were founded in 1918. Imagine this, over 100 years ago. They have roots that far back. And this is a modern, diverse firm. It have 12 offices across Ottawa, Gatineau, Eastern Ontario, Toronto. It offers a full range of audit, accounting, tax, and advisory services. It's also the largest locally headquartered Ottawa accounting firm with more than 200 employees. And they are a firm with a remarkable involvement in our city. It's quite astounding. Without further ado, please welcome the managing partner of Welch LLP. Here is Jim McConnery. Welcome, Jim.
Hi, Michael. It's great to be with you.
Yeah, it's an exciting to speak with you. This, as I indicated, only happens once a year. It's the culmination, Jim, of months of work. Like we literally start working in this, I think, November, December, and it brings us all the way here to June to unveil the results. What is one of the reasons why you think it's important for us to gather all this data, Jim?
It's a great question. And as you noted, the survey goes back now to 2015, but I think on an ongoing basis, it's providing some real valuable intel, some insights. I know myself, I often have a sentiment on some of these key economic factors and how the business community is feeling from a talent perspective, recruiting, retention. But I find the survey, the results that are reporting are providing some real valuable intel, definitely helpful information about the business confidence, the outlook for the economy, and also that breakdown amongst different sectors of the economy. So definitely our interest as an organization in having that insight, that information for ourselves, but knowing as well that it's very valuable for the community at large. And in many cases can help local government, for example, in terms of how they set policy, but also an opportunity for us in the business community to influence policy at the same time by virtue of having our voice heard and by virtue of there being some good intel and in terms of how the business economy or the business leaders feel.
And we've seen really real evidence of that, Jim. As you know, we've heard the mayor without our request citing results. We've seen economic development officials citing results. So I know people in the public sector are keeping an eye on this, and also as you indicated, the Board of Trade really has an important advocacy purpose. And if you know you're going to do good advocacy, you better have the research to back that. So we're about to have David Coletto join us here in a minute, Jim, to unveil the full results. But you had an advance look at this. Give us some of the findings that stand out for you, Jim.
My attention, Michael, is always drawn to the business confidence index, which I think is a good indicator of the overall sentiment in the marketplace. And I think it's important because that does drive decision making when business owners and business leaders are confident, when there's a positive outlook. I think that is a very good factor for the economy. I know when we go back to 2020 and when we're in that first COVID experience, the first COVID era, the business confidence index dropped very severely, and that was not surprising. But when you see the business confidence index today, that it's back up at a very high level, similar to where it was a number of years ago, is very positive. At the same time, Michael, probably the perspective that business confidence can change relatively quickly. The survey gathers information at a point in time, and it's very valuable intel, but we know that continues to evolve. But it does resonate for me that there's a positive outlook in the economy. Businesses, I think, are in many cases are gearing up for ongoing growth, and they're keen to grow and to recruit new talent. So it resonated for me that the business confidence index is at a high rate, or is at a high factor today. And I think that augurs well for how we cope with sort of challenges probably ahead as we see higher interest rates and ongoing inflation in the economy.
Yeah, it's a great point. I think is the headline, if I were to put it that way, of the report would be the rebound of the business confidence index. Some elements of it are at an actual all-time high, which is kind of cool to see. And I take your point too that it's research in a point in time. In this case, we should point out that there was a lot of the research was done in March. So there are some things, thinking of geopolitical issues like the invasion of Ukraine, kind of the onset or acceptance that inflation is at historic highs, some changes in lending rates and all that type of stuff. So there is a general level of positivity, I think, here, Jim, but I don't think any of us should rest on our laurels and think that everything is normal. In fact, our theme, as we've been flashing on the screen here, is Ottawa at a crossroads, which kind of suggests that there's a positive way forward, and there could be a bumpy road, right, Jim?
I agree, and yeah, and you're so right, Michael, that so many different aspects of business activity are facing some important challenges right now, and part of that is talent related. I think across all industries, there's a fight for talent, and in many industries, the opportunity for more growth is held back by virtue of not having the resources, the people available to help grow. And then separate from that, Michael, I think there's ongoing questions vis-a-vis commercial real estate, the downtown core. Welch, like many other organizations, is operating in a hybrid, flexible environment. We're very keen to retain our office environment and see more and more people come back to the office on a regular basis. But at the same time, it does appear apparent that this hybrid mode of operating is here to stay. Good in many ways, but at the same time, an important challenge in terms of how we adapt and how we ensure that the downtown core remains vital and vibrant. So that will be interesting to see how that develops over the next few years.
It's a great segue, Jim. I want to thank you for joining me here today. The report includes data on things like how to maximize your level of engagement with employees. It includes data on how respondents to the survey are going to use that commercial real estate. So stay tuned. If you're worried about or concerned about some of those issues, there's some data coming your way. So thank you very much, Jim, for joining us today. We always appreciate the support of Welch LLP. We quite literally could not do this project without you. So thank you.
You're welcome, Michael. Have a great day.
Thank you. And now, without further ado, it's time to unveil the 2022 Ottawa Business Growth Survey data from Abacus Data. Here is Dr. David Coletto.
Hi there, my name is David Coletto, and I'm the CEO of Abacus Data, a full-service market research firm based here in Ottawa. And I'm very pleased to be here today to share the results of the 2022 Welch LLP Ottawa Business Growth Survey. Now, this is, I think, almost the 9th edition of this survey in which we take the pulse of the business community in Ottawa and share the results with the community. And I'm both thrilled and a little cautious about this year's results. We certainly are coming out of the pandemic. The last 2 years have been very difficult for many businesses in our community. And this tool is a great way for us to see what businesses are thinking about, how they're feeling about the environment in which they're operating, and what are some of the things they're thinking about as we move throughout the year. So let me get into the results and share them with you today. Now, very briefly, this survey was conducted earlier this year from the end of February to mid-April. We had the privilege of hearing from 550 business leaders from across the city who completed this survey today. And as we have been doing for the entirety of this project, the primary objective has been to measure the business confidence among business leaders in this city. And I'll take you through some of the results, but the overall index that I'll share in a moment is built off a number of questions that gauge different aspects of how a business is doing. So let me get into this. The first one is, in the last year, did your sales or revenue increase, decrease, or stay about the same? And you can see here, this is the percentage of businesses over the last number of years that said their sales has increased. You can see in 2020 and 2021, we saw a significant drop. We've seen a rebound. Now, just half or more of businesses that we surveyed say their revenues have gone up in the last fiscal year. So that's a positive sign. At the same time, we've seen a really big rebound in those that say their net income have increased. Very small numbers say their net increase is decreasing, but year over year, we're almost a 20-point increase in businesses across the city who say their net income is higher than it was the previous year. And that is close to or just above the peak that we've ever measured, going all the way back to 2015. Now, one of the key indicators that drives business confidence is future market expectations. In this one, we ask over the next year, do you expect the market for your business sector to improve, get worse, stay about the same? And again, you see this really big drop in 2020 because of the pandemic, but it quickly rebounded last year and continues to move up to the point in which more than half, 57% of businesses say that they believe their market will improve for their business in the year ahead. That's a good sign. It's the best number we've ever had, and I think is a strong indicator of how businesses are growing across the city. At the same time the businesses are growing, so too are their plans to hire new recruits. 61% of businesses we surveyed said they plan to recruit new employees over the course of the next year. Very few, less than 10%, say they plan to get rid of employees or shrink their workforce. You can see this constant and steady growth from 2020, where only a quarter of businesses said they would hire new recruits, up to 61%, the highest that we've seen. And so in a market, as I'll show you later in this presentation, where labor shortages and challenges recruiting are particularly acute for many businesses, one of the reasons is more businesses today are saying they're going to recruit new employees than ever before. Finally, we ask people whether their confidence in the local economy is increasing, staying about the same, or decreasing compared to a year ago. Once again, we've seen a nice rebound from last year and the previous year. Only 6% of businesses in 2020 said they thought their confidence in the local economy would improve or had improved over the previous year. Today, 2 years later, it's 23%, close to the high that we've ever had. So you mix all of these metrics together: confidence, intent to recruit, access to capital, which I didn't share, but we ask, and outlook on the market for their business. And we roll that all together and we create an index score out of 100. A score that's above 100 is positive. A score below 100 is negative. And you can see in 2022, this year, we are back up to the highest we've had all the way back till 2017 at 125. A 20-point increase, from last year, and a significant increase from 2020, where we saw for the first time in our tracking that the confidence index had gone below 100. Now, beyond the overall good news, we've also seen a number of sectors that had been hardest hit during the pandemic rebound substantially in terms of their business confidence. We've seen a significant increase among those companies in the consulting sector, those in the hospitality sector, a significant 38-point increase in their confidence score, as well as in retail. All of those sectors now that we have large enough sample sizes to really understand are above 100, which is an indicator that our city and our business community feels far more confident, is growing, and is ready to tackle the new challenges post-pandemic. Now, that good news is being clouded somewhat by some challenging economic news. Certainly, inflation and the labor shortages and rising prices are on the minds of businesses. So, in this survey this year, we wanted to understand that and really look at what back in October 2021, The Economist magazine called the shortage economy. What we find is that overwhelmingly over the past year, businesses we surveyed said they had increased the prices they're paying, mind you, for key goods and services. It's almost universal, right? 87% of businesses saying they're paying either a lot more or a little more for the goods and services they need to do their business. Very few are reporting, seeing their prices decline. At the same time, not surprising, as the cost of doing business has increased and the cost of goods or services to do their business has gone up, so too are their prices. In fact, a majority of businesses across the city say over the past year they had increased their prices although not by a lot yet, sizable numbers are saying I've increased them at least a little bit, with the rest saying I haven't increased his prices, with some saying I've been able to decrease prices, in fact. So the overall theme here is rising input costs have led to a need to rise in prices. But that's not the only shortage in terms of supply chain disruptions that are causing increased prices. So too is the labor force shortage. In fact, we asked over the past year, did you change, if at all, your ability? What's your view on skilled labor? A majority of businesses in our community say there's a shortage of skilled trade workers has negatively impacted their ability to operate. Small minority, 7% say that shortage has been a positive for their ability to operate, with 36% of businesses saying it's had no impact. So half of the businesses we surveyed are pointing to a labor shortage as being a real challenge in being able to do what they want to do. And as a result, when they think about their ability to recruit and retain employees, the pandemic has made it harder, either somewhat or much harder, for more than half of businesses that we surveyed, and another 16% saying a bit harder. So there is an environment right now where rising prices for inputs, as well as a labor shortage, and a real challenge for many businesses to find talent, particularly in areas like hospitality, construction, but also in high tech, means that this is going to continue to put pressure on businesses who want to grow, who have confidence in growing, but may not be able to find the people to deliver the services, produce the goods that they need for their customers. And so one of the things we wanted to understand is what are businesses doing to retain employees in this very tight labor market? And what we find is that across the board, a majority of businesses are looking at a number of tools. So, for example, flexibility is the name of the game these days. The pandemic has accelerated that shift to more flexible work environment. 3 out of 4 businesses say they're providing more flexibility in when and where their team members need to work. 65% are enhancing workplace culture based on the employee feedback that they're getting. Recognizing how important culture is to keeping that team engaged, keeping them together. Clear majority say that's something that they're focused on. There's also, a desire to enhance opportunities for learning, growth, and advancement. Half of businesses say they've had to increase wages significantly or provide retention bonuses. And 54% are introducing new perks for employees. Think of transit allowances or cost of living adjustments or other things that are going to try to keep their employees sticky and demonstrate the value that they bring to the organization. A third of businesses are providing more vacation time, and 1 out of 5 say they've implemented or enhanced a workplace pension or retirement program. So across the board, given just how challenging business leaders feel it is to recruit and retain good employees in this market, nothing's off the table in terms of what they're trying to do to keep folks. At the same time, as we had seen in previous versions of the Ottawa Business Growth Survey since the pandemic started, that particularly for office-based workplaces, there's a shift in how leaders are thinking about where their employees will work over the next 12 months. And what we find is a very mixed view, right? Half of employees believe, business leaders believe that their employees will work in some kind of hybrid environment where there'll be a mix of home and traditional office. 35% think that their employees will work primarily at an office or a commercial space. Many of them require their employees to be physically present because of the nature of their work. But almost one out of five businesses that we surveyed said that their employees will work primarily from a home office, will go almost entirely virtual. And so if I had asked this question in 2019, I suspect we would get very different answers. And so the new world, the new normal will be, I think, one in which, particularly for office-based workplaces, where a mix of home and traditional office settings will continue. When we asked folks, when do you think your employees will return to the office, for those that currently don't have a full back to the office situation? Now, this survey was done in February and April, and at early parts of that survey, Omicron was still a significant challenge. But you can see that the view is not. There's no consensus. Some businesses think it'll take 1 to 3 months before their employees will return to the office. Some think it might take up to a year, and a small minority, but still 1 out of 10 say they won't return to the office at all. And so we are going to see a slow and mixed return to the office if we see an entire return at all. And I think this move to more hybrid, flexible work arrangements is going to be the norm, which is going to create both challenges from a workplace culture and team cohesion perspective, but also big public policy questions around what the future of our commercial properties, and particularly downtown, will mean going forward. Now, one of the things, though, that we do know is that the pandemic not only has affected us personally, has affected our anxiety and our exhaustion levels, but we are seeing a fairly high level of business leaders telling us that the pandemic has actually had a negative effect on their culture at work. 33% say that their company's culture has worsened. 46% say it stayed the same. And there is a group, 1 out of 5, who say it's improved somewhat. But it's that 33% who are well aware of the challenges of both a pandemic and having a virtually present team means we need to rethink how we build culture and strengthen culture across the teams. And so one of the ways we asked is, what are you doing to maintain engagement, to create a sense of connectedness with your teams? We're seeing, majority of leaders talking about doing more one-on-one meetings, far more email communication with employees. 62% are doing social events. My team at Abacus, we've done a number of those, trying to get people together and not have the sort of formal Zoom calls that it's really hard to do chit chat and get to know people. Half are even giving gifts for employees. So the range of things that employees are trying to do in this more hybrid virtual environment requires more work, requires perhaps out-of-box thinking and doing things that you may not have had to do when everybody's together in one place. And we see wide adoption of many of these types of tactics. Now, we also asked about, recruitment and flexibility around a recruitment. One of the things the pandemic made far easier was the ability to recruit people that don't necessarily live in the community in which your workplace exists or where your office is operating. And so we asked, which of the following is true for your company? Have you hired workers who will continue to work remotely? Almost half of businesses in the city say they have. Have you hired workers living outside the regular recruitment area? 4 out of 10 report having done that. Have you had workers resign to work for companies outside of your home region? So not just recruiting outside of Ottawa or the National Capital Region, but losing employees to companies outside of it. 1 out of 4 say that's happened to them. And beyond just outside our region, we also see a sizable number, about 1 out of 5 businesses saying they've both recruited people to work for their company from outside the country, but also they've lost employees to companies outside of the country either. So not just a tight labor market creating new challenges, but new forms of competition and how to compete with employers, not just in our home markets, not just even in our province, but around the world. And so, given the challenges in terms of recruitment, we continue to ask a question around immigration and the importance of immigrants in the workplace. And what we find is that still a large majority of businesses in our community continue to believe that immigrants as a source of labor and skills are important both to the overall economy, and an increasing number of businesses who believe they're an important source of labor and skills for their own company. That's up 12 points from last year's survey. And so the need to increase immigration, the need to replace retiring baby boomers and others who've left the labor market continues to be seen as critically important to the vast majority of businesses in our community. In fact, we've seen an increase in the number of businesses surveyed who said they have hired an immigrant over the past year. It's up 14 percentage points. That's a significant increase and shows how high in demand skilled labor is from anywhere, and the importance that immigrants will continue to play for our community to continue us to grow, allow us to grow, and businesses to be successful. Now, the other thing I think that the pandemic has taught us is as we move to a more virtual world where more of our business is sort of pushed to a cloud or conducted virtually, the growing importance of data security and privacy to our businesses. And so in this survey, we explored this thanks to support from commissionaires and others a little bit more closely. And what we find is when we ask people over the past 1 to 2 years, have you or has your employer taken additional measures to protect the organization's privacy, data, and digital assets, such as by investing in upgrades, new tools, or technologies? 50% of businesses we surveyed say yes, they have over the past 1 to 2 years. They have invested and they now feel that they are secure. But the remaining 50% of businesses either believe that they have tried but still feel they're at risk. That's 20%. Or they haven't made any changes but already felt they were secure before, or a small minority of businesses who have not done anything as it relates to privacy or data security and still feel that they're at risk. And so we've seen this shift in mindset, I think, across many businesses who weren't all doing it before, that the need to protect their IT infrastructure, their privacy of their employees and their customer data has never been more important. Beyond security, we also asked questions about real estate in this survey. As I mentioned earlier, there has been a shift towards more virtual hybrid work environments, but the result has not been an overwhelming sense that footprints for commercial space are going to decrease. Now, about 1 out of 4 businesses say they will shrink their organization's office, retail, or other commercial footprint. But there's an even larger group of businesses that are saying they're actually going to increase that footprint, either because they're growing or as I've learned as a business owner myself, the needs of our team are going to evolve in a virtual or hybrid world, where we move maybe from having open concept offices pre-pandemic that might have made sense, but post-pandemic, when we're still going to be doing many of our meetings on Zoom or FaceTime or Skype, it's going to require more private, quiet places for teams to get away and individuals to get away to do those meetings. And so there's going to be different needs. And if you're going to want to encourage your team members back, particularly into an office, that office space needs to be compelling and exciting and worth coming to, given that for the last 2.5 years, many people have found it suitable to just work at home and not have to commute and deal with that daily grind. But beyond just growing or shrinking your footprint, we are also seeing, as I mentioned, a real interest by many businesses, particularly those that are office-based, to think about how to prioritize. And so we asked, thinking about your organization's commercial real estate space, what will your priorities over the next 5 years be? And what we find is that half of businesses say they're going to be thinking about amenities for staff, improved design for collaboration, more flexible workstations, all recognizing that the way we work has fundamentally changed and how we connect with clients and collaborators and stakeholders virtually, even if we're in an office, requires a different setup. Some are going to be looking for a lower rental rate, shorter term leases, proximity to transit, and 1 out of 4 are saying, I need more individual space for each employee. Again, a shift away from the trends that we were seeing prior to the pandemic. Finally, this is a big year for Ottawa in terms of our elected officials. We are just wrapping up, as I record this, a provincial election in Ontario. But coming this fall, we've got a municipal campaign in which we're going to elect a new mayor and a new city council. And so in this survey, we asked business leaders what their priorities were for City Hall. And what we see is a fairly mixed view. Number 1 on this list is finishing the light rail system. Phase 3, connecting Canada and Barrhaven to the rest of the city and improving the system overall. 1 out of 5 business leaders want to see more fiscal constraint at City Hall, keeping taxes low and making sure that we're as efficient as we can in our city. But a similar number want to see social investments, reducing inequality, reducing poverty and homelessness, dealing with the opioid crisis that in many parts of our city continues to exist. At the same time, and it's related, 15% want to see housing affordability be a priority, making sure that everybody at all stages on the income scale have a place to call home, and recognizing that housing affordability, whether that be more social housing or market-based housing, is critical to our competitiveness as a city and ties and is connected to our ability to recruit and retain employees here in Ottawa. It's all connected, and I think we see that in these results. Another 10% want to see more consensus building at City Hall. 8% say LeBreton Flats is a top issue for them, and 8% say environmental and climate change considerations should also be a priority. So when I look at the overall results, and I thank you for following along and participating, if you did complete this survey in this year's work, I think what has been a challenging 2 years, we see that business confidence, at least right now, is back to pre-pandemic levels, and in some cases is as good as it's ever been. But there are some storm clouds that have moved over that optimism. Inflation and labor shortages will put pressure on that outlook, and how we as a community come through that and work through those challenges will be critical. Employee retention has become the new obsession, new focus, I think, for many leaders in this city. The labor shortages plus the shift to a different working environment means we are going to need to be creative. We're going to be flexible, and I think as a leader myself and as all of us, we need to have a new mindset in terms of how we engage our team members, how we build space for them to work that is exciting and appealing, makes them want to come to the office or to the workplace, especially given that they haven't had to in many cases for years to come. Finally, as I said, a big year of change here in the city's political leadership. We're going to have a choice to make, and I'm really excited to be working with the Ottawa Board of Trade to build a campaign to engage the Ottawa business community in setting forward a number of agenda items that we want to see moved forward as that new council takes shape and our city looks to the future. Well, I thank you again for the opportunity. I want to thank all the sponsors of the Ottawa Business Growth Survey, Welch LLP, who has been the lead sponsor of this program for many years now, the Ottawa Board of Trade, commissionaires, the Sprott School of Business at Carleton University, RGA, the Royal Bank, Purley, Robertson Hill, and McDougall LLP, and of course, the Ottawa Business Journal. Really appreciate the time, and I think this data is incredibly valuable for our community to understand how business leaders are feeling, to point us in a direction of what we need to do together to solve many of the issues that businesses are facing. And as we look to build up Ottawa this year, this data will become incredibly valuable. I hope you all are well. Take care and have a great day.